My beef was with Lior because I think he's a fake CEO and I think he's fronting on my culture, but he can't front on anybody else. And I'm calling him out publicly, and I want him to stop trying to rape my culture. Go make some money with some other people. Like, stop having your agenda be hip hop. Like when Joey was like, our agenda to open up Asylum was to go, it didn't say nothing about going to get no rock and roll. It was go to get people that they don't even care about and make money from them. Yeah, just get money in their culture. Let them do it. Let's let the violence stay there. Let's benefit from the violence and not bring in, you know what I mean? It was like they have people that their job is to create beef so that they can monetize it, pause. But they don't let their culture feel it. But they make money from it, and they can't make any money or get any respect in their culture. That's why they're in our culture. Because the minute that they were allowed to be there, they would go.
Yes, yes, and yes. Welcome back to the podcast. Beloved, this is indeed your brother, Big VJ, is definitely checking in, right? Today's conversation, we're going to talk about what's trending. You know, we're going to talk about the black male image in hip hop, the black woman image in hip hop, which means we're going to have to talk about Jaimes, because we know it's the small hats. It's the hook nose that run the music industry, right? Our people work for them. And in the process of talking about small hats, we're going to have to talk about their religion and our image in their Semitic religion just a little bit, right? So we may not have to talk about Islam at all, but we will talk about some elements of Judaism and some characters that's in the religion of Judaism, the Old Testament, because we know small hats have that's all they go by, is the Old Covenant, the Old Testament, the Old Promise. Bible believers with the King James Version, they go by two testaments, the Old and the New, which is the Old Promise, and then they have a New Promise, which is very interesting because Israel is kind of like this. They're kind of like doing some invading, some raider kind of plundering stuff in the First Testament, but that promise is connected to a landmass, so we get that. The way the New Testament opens up, it's like Israel is not in power no more. They are actually being controlled by the Guineas, the Italians. Well, they say Romans, but it's on. We know that Rome is in Italy, and it's an interesting dynamic when you go into the New Testament, because it's like the Italians is running the show, and you see a certain apostle, he kind of come about, and it's almost like they're trying to make a merger in the New Promise with the Semitics and the Europeans, because like I said, the Italians or the Romans is in charge, so much so that you can even see like a letter being wrote to the Romans, and then you see like it's a bunch of outreach to these European, you know, Thessalonica and Corinth and Ephesus. It's like it's a I don't know. Well, we might, you know, we don't have to go into the New Testament much at all, right? We just gonna have our conversation about the Old Promise, the first promise that the small hats go by, which we're gonna talk about Father Abraham, and then Isaac and Jacob, and then we're gonna connect that to you and your image, and I'm gonna show you how you are like you are, not only in hip hop, but as a black entertainer in general. It's a reason why you got the roles that you got. It's not new roles. Whether you believe it or not, the roles is not new. You know, you had those roles for some centuries now. You used to act them out on the page, the black and white page. We're gonna read that today. We're gonna give you some characters that's on the black and white page that this has been your image for centuries, and now you just see this image being translated to the big screen, right? And both of these, it's the black and white and the big screen, is both being ran by the same people. So we got to establish that first. When we start talking about the biblical text is indeed the word of God according to Semitics, not you. You didn't write no book. You're from Memphis. You're from Atlanta. You're from Birmingham, somewhere. From Oakland or Houston. You didn't write no book. You don't make the decision on where the periods go, where the semicolons go, where the commas go. You don't construct no chapters and verses. They put the book together, the Semites do, and they hand the finished product to you. And your role in that is just to believe. The end. You know, because there's a bunch of our brothers and sisters on every street corner in the inner city, and we love them. They're saying they're the real homies. And I'm like, okay, man, all that is allegory, beloved. There's no, but we'll get to that, right? We'll definitely, we'll figure it out today. How about that? We'll figure it out today. Our brother Dee1 has been calling out Rick Ross, Meek Mill, and Jim Jones, right? And he should. He's a Christian rapper from New Orleans, and he's 37 years old. Young brother on the square. I never heard of him until this kind of situation, until he started trending. I heard a couple of his freestyles on Sway, and the brother can spit. Fresh out of the boot. Fresh out of Louisiana, the brother can go. Rick Ross, you know, Fat Boy can rap. I used to have him in my top 5. Meek is a little younger. You know, he's, I'm past the rap stage. I don't listen to the rap stage, but Jimmy was more of my generation. Now, you know, the name of Jim Jones is very interesting, to say the least, because he named himself after a so-called white man that was a pastor that literally killed our people with poison. Right? He's charismatic, and our people is very religious, and unfortunately, you know, a lot of our people is mentally dead. So they followed this charismatic man all the way down to South America, to Guyana, where he put something in the Kool-Aid, in the punch, that killed our people. That's where you get the term from in our village, don't drink the Kool-Aid. They get that from Jimmy, right? So to have an original man name himself after that devil, you shouldn't expect much, right? And then you see videos of Jimmy. He's in Gucci Guinea. He's complaining about the service is not well and all this. He's not getting good service.
We've been in Gucci for about an hour, right? And we in Gucci in the VIP.
We went Gucci for like 2 hours.
Right? Since we came in here, having nobody came and showed us no courtesy, no amenities, no nothing. Period. Not even a drink of water. Asked to speak to the manager. Send me a black guy out here that start telling me some bullshit. So they got the black guy racial profiling on black people. Asked to speak to a manager bigger than him. Everybody disappeared. Ain't nobody come out yet. I still ain't getting no sparkling water. I still ain't getting no champagne. I still ain't getting nothing. I didn't have a salesperson inside of my VIP suite the whole time I was there. I had to keep screaming for VIP people to help me out. Now everybody don't know where the real manager is. You heard? I'm tired of this. We spending all this money as entertainers inside these stores. They hire these black people, and these black people are more racist than white people when they get their job inside of Gucci. All of a sudden, you stop playing with us, bro.
So, because he's spending thousands of dollars in there, and this European fashion house is not treating him correctly, so he leaves, and he don't go to a black-owned clothing store. He leaves one European fashion house where he feels like he's not getting respected, and go to another European fashion house to spend thousands of dollars.
Big difference in bird off. Big difference when you pop in that bag and bird off, baby. Hey, fuck. You heard? It's cheers when you get the bird off. You heard me? Playing with us like that, like we ain't even dropping that bag for years.
Make sure Chris get a tip.
You heard? You holla at, we had bird off, you holla at Chris. You heard me? You got that.
So you can see by the names of like Jim Jones and Rick Ross, who names himself after a black drug lord from California that killed and broke up thousands of black families, these guys are mentally dead. So to see our brother Dee1 call them out, he should. And we can commend our brother for cutting off the branch or attempting to cut off the branch. But today, we're going to go just a little deeper, right? We're going to go for the root. Beloved, we're gonna go for the Jaime because we know it's the Jaime that's running the show, right? Dee1 is signed to a record label called RCA Inspirations. He's a gospel artist, right? And we know that is owned by Sony. Jim Jones is independent. He's over there at Empire Records, which Empire, man, I don't know, man. They lost about 7 to 8 rap artists over there. It's weird over there. It's the guy that runs it is a Palestinian guy. His name is Ghazi. But we know that most of these gentlemen, that's the CEO and the founder, they're just in the front. But behind the scenes, come on, you know how. They just in the front, beloved. The real power of being a distributor is in the back. The Jaime is in the back. Rick Ross and Meek Mills, they own their record labels. They just like in the front. But Atlantic Records, Craig Kalman, the small hat, the Jaime, he's in the back. He's the one that's really, see, it kind of works that way with black entertainers. So I commend our brother Dee1 for pointing out that these gentlemen are too old to be leading our youth down the line. And I commend them for that. But you know, they put you up like that because that's how they have you in their religion, which is interesting because he just so happened to have. But the way that he's going to read it as an original man, because he have freedom and justice and equality in his heart because he's an original man, he's only going to get these Semitic religions, whether it's Islam or Christianity or Judaism, or he may go further east and become a Hindu. He's only going to gravitate to the part of value, to the part of righteousness, because that's kind of like where we come from. That's our nature anyway. The part that he's not going to see, which his brother, such as myself and others, have to point out, is that, see, it's 3 ways that you look at these religions and you read their text. The first level is surface level. That's what many of our people is at. Surface level reading in these religions. And then beneath that, there's another, because you're going a little deeper, you begin to see the allegory in it. You say, okay, this is the hidden treasure. This is the value in it. But when you go deeper than that, you see there's a racial allegory connected to these stories. We're going to talk about the racial allegories today. So when we see our brother Dee1 call out Rick Ross, before it was a Rick Ross, you know what I'm saying? They always been playing us as this Ron O'Neal, this pimp, this Mac, this hustler. Our sisters been these prostitutes, you know what I mean? And these whores in these movies, they call them black exploitation films. So before you can get a Lil Kim, you have a Jezebel. Because that's how it works. That's how come they can easily sign and fund and promote a Lil Kim or Nicki Minaj or Megan Thee Stallion, because she's Jezebel to them. See, Jezebel to us on the surface level, she's just a wicked woman. Then you see the allegory behind it. You know, you can say, oh, it's a story behind she married Ahab and blah, blah, blah. But then when you go deeper and you look at the racial allegory, Jezebel, who was the wife of Ahab, right? She is a representation of prostitution, lewdness. She's a freaky woman. She's a loose woman. She is portrayed by the rabbis like she's a wicked woman that represents the negative influence of a heathen woman who turned Israel, or who was trying to turn the heart of Israel to idolatry. This is the whole scope of her, but she's a black woman. So this is why they call the characters of a loose woman, as they call them Jezebels, because that comes out of the story. It's connected to the racial allegory. That's the part that our people are missing. That's how come they see you this way around the world. See, Europeans and Semitics look at you. You don't see them looking at you, but religion is teaching them to look at you this way. Your role in a Christian world or a world of Judaism is the role of a Hamite. See, let me just give you this game, because we're gonna go into some characters, some biblical characters, right, in the Semitic text. But let's just go over something real quick so we have a good foundation. Let's talk about the Old Testament. What does that mean? We say that so much. We read the Old Testament and we not under the law no more. I'm like, when was we ever under the law? you was on the other side of the law, whether you know it or not. Maybe that's a different story for a different day. You over here debating whether you under the law of grace. No, you was on the other side of the law. And we beloved, I'm gonna have to show and prove that maybe another day. dig this. The testament is the covenant. The covenant is the promise. So when you see the old promise or the first promise, you have to ask yourself, well, what does that mean? Who got the first promise? Right? Let's figure it out together. I help you figure it out. The whole Old Testament is about the promise that was given to a guy from Iraq named Abram, who changed his name to Abraham. Abram met his deity named Yahweh, and Yahweh is he's a war god. He's like a military strategist. He's a military genius, and he came to Abram with a proposition. He was like, "Yo, leave your father's house, which is Iraq, and I give you the land of Canaan to you and your descendants." Right now, in order for that to be something to bite on, that means Canaan was popping. Now, Canaan is black land. This is the land of milk and honey, of wealth and prosperity, and black people had in quote unquote Bible days. Now, all of this is allegory, but I just have to go along with the story so you can see what is what. All right. Abram and I believe his uncle and his nephew and his wife, they book it. They leave Iraq. And I have to say it this way because I have so many of my people saying, well, they are Semitic too. Where the home of the Semites or the Shemites was Iraq. Abraham and his father's and his mother's home was Iraq. They called it Mesopotamia. They called it the land of Ur. That was the original homeland of them. So if that's your people, you should be looking to go back there because that's where you're from. Anytime you read a Bible story, or I do in the Old Testament, the way my mind works is I'm like, why is David fighting so hard? He should just go home, back to his father's in them house. Why is Saul fighting so hard? Why is Joshua fighting so hard? Why does Moses leave Egypt and he go back home? Go back to your forefathers in them home. Go back to Iraq. They don't. They take the black land. Their mind is on the black land. Their mind is on the land of milk and honey, which belongs to black folks. So let me just pivot and say this. Really, 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 if you kind of read the way that the Old Testament is set up and you read the doctrine of discovery, it's almost the same thing. I want you to do that for me, beloved. I want you to research the doctrine of discovery. I want you to research terra nullius, which means a territory without a master. Because this is the mind frame of Semitics and Europeans, right? If you go to a land and it's empty, or if the land is occupied, but the people that live on the land are heathens, they don't believe in Judaism or Christianity, you have the green light to take it from them. That's a doctrine. The allegory, the racial allegory that's connected with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is just that. They're really just going on a mission of the doctrine of discovery, where they see, well, it's occupied. It got Hamites on it. It got Canaanites and Philistines and Jebusites on it, but they're heathens. That means we can take it. The setup on that is this. The whole world begins with Noah and his 3 sons. Now, they give you a story about the Adam and Eve thing, but all of that is cool, but it washes away because the water comes with the ark. It washes everything away. And you're left with Noah and his 3 sons. All right. These are how the 3 races are populated. Now, it's allegory. If you just a surface level reader and you really think that 3 men got off a boat and they populated the whole planet, there's not much that can be said that can help you. If you read a text and it talk about a snake can talk, and then a donkey can even talk, or you're reading a book and somebody was thrown in the furnace and they didn't burn up, or a human being lived in the stomach of a whale for so many days, the whale spit them out and all. If you think all that is like real and you don't see the allegory in that, well, you really can't be helped, because you're just a surface level reader. So you're not even on the next level. You're not even at the allegory part where you can pull out the hidden treasure and see or get a good message out of that. When you go further than surface level, then you get to the allegory. You go further than the allegory, you get to the racial allegory part. You get to see the character and the race behind the story, because this is the way that Semitics teach other Semitics how to handle you, just to keep it in short. So like when you read in the Old Testament, you got to be able to see the promise was all about the black land. Everything is about the black land, period. Everything is about the land of the blacks and them taking the land of the blacks. And the Old Testament is pretty much just only about them going into the land, which would be Joshua. That will begin with Joshua. And then kind of like winning the battle here, losing the battle, winning the battle, losing the battle. And then you're just trying to sustain the land that they took. And then by the time you get to the second promise, the Italians is in charge, which is the New Testament, which the Jews don't go by, right? Okay. In this, the characters of black women are put on display. So you see the character of Jezebel, then you see the character of Delilah, who's a Philistine, which means she's the children of Ham. And the way that it's written is that she was the one that got Samson to give up the secret. But if we looked at it through the racial lens, most black people should be rooting for Delilah, because she's a Philistine. She's in her homeland. She's not a foreigner. She lives there. She's trying to get the Israelites out of her land. So she's trying to get the guy that's killing her people. They're trying to trap him up and get him out of there, but they can't cheat. They figured out it was the hair. Now this is allegory, because we know, I mean, if you really think somebody gets some strength from the hair, I don't know. Like I said, you on that level, nobody can really help that. But it's all allegory. So it's about the hair growing back, and he killed more Philistines, but you don't know who the Philistines is, but it's all about the children of Ham. But the setup comes from Noah. They set everything up when those kids get off the Noah's Ark. Now, if you really think one man can populate 3 sons, and these 3 sons is he got a black son, a white son, and a Semitic son. If you believe that, okay. But that's, so all right, different story for a different day, right? Ham got the son named Canaan that's cursed. And then it goes into a servant of servants, and right then, that's the setup for his land to be taken. But it's the precursor, like, this is why we're going to take his land later. And now Ham did the violation, supposedly. But the curse go right to the son. And then you see the land of Canaan, which is part of we call it the Levant. It's like the most richest area, because if you, back in those times, and it's really allegory, but back in those times, you would think that portion there, the bulk of the trading is going to be done there. They call it Palestine or Israel today. So whoever owned that and controlled that was wealthy, because this is where you doing all the trading at. So anybody would say, I want that land. That's the best land. That's why it's all about the land. You can't see it that way, because Pork Chop is kind of preaching the sermon. He kind of got the organ playing. He got the drums playing, people jumping all around, and you don't see the children of Israel as invaders. They're invading the land. So while they're invading the land, they're painting the picture of the people that they are invading as super wicked people. This is how you get a Jezebel and a Delilah, and you get a Potiphar's wife. Potiphar had a wife who was supposedly, she's a Hamite because he's an Egyptian, and his wife is running behind Joseph, and she accused him of raping. See, all of these stories you get, it's a racial allegory behind it, not on the surface level. See, you think it's real on the surface level, and then right beneath that, you go a little deeper. It's an allegory where you learn somebody being accused of rape and all that, and you can get value out of that. The known world is going further, and they get in the racial allegory, and they see you're the image of that. You see, you're the image of Nimrod. Before there's a Rick Ross and a Jay-Z and a Scarface and a Yo Gotti, there's Nimrod, who was the son of Cush, who was the son of Ham. His name means to rebel. You get Babylon and the Tower of Babel from this guy. So like today, let's just say this. In regular English language, we having a conversation. If I call somebody a Nimrod, you know what I'm saying? This person is an idiot. They're a foolish person. Like, this is a doofus. You know what I mean? He's a Nimrod. But that's the allegory. But the racial allegory is, see, he's a black doofus. So, okay, he's a black idiot. He's a black foolish person. Now, I can give you Nimrod on black and white pages. You know what I give you in media? I give you Lincoln Perry. That was the black man that played Step and Fetch It. See, now I can give you Ernest Hogan now. I can give you Billy Kersands now, who played Sambo. I can give you the black idiot. I can give you Cole. Don't you notice on every single show, it's a black idiot on it. I can give you Cole from Martin. I can go to Good Times. Let's say Good Times. And the small hat Norman Lear, who stole the show, but he created a character called JJ. They can give you Nimrod. They give you the black idiot, but it comes from their Semitic. It comes from their culture. See, you won't see it that way. See, this is why Dee1, he's attacking the branches. Rick Ross and them just a branch. They always had black entertainers play these idiot roles, these Jezebel roles, you know, these Nimrod roles, this Goliath role. You know, Goliath, if you read the surface level, he's a giant, he's a Philistine, which means he's a son of Ham, he's a black person. That's the gist of the whole thing. You won't see that. You just see the shepherd boy fighting Goliath. He defeats Goliath, right? This is how the allegory go. David defeats Goliath with a rock. He had a slingshot or something, hit the dude in the head. Then he cut the guy's head off. He cuts the giant's head off, right? But the body is still there. He leaves the body, he cut the head off. This is how you deal with black folks. No head, you keep the body. That's slave talk. You're their head. This is how come when they do business with you, no matter how great they are, or big they are, or strong they are, you're the manager, you're the agent, you're the lawyer. You play the head. You cut the Goliath's head off. You're the head. You walk around with the black man's head. David walking around with the black man's head. What is that? Just use your brain sometime. What do you think that's an allegory over? But you don't see it like that. You too busy with the look, you on the surface level ship. You jumping up, shouting, and David won the thing. You don't see you're Goliath. So today in regular conversation, Goliath represents like what, a big enemy, a big problem. You know, I was dealing with a Goliath at the, you know, but you don't see that the racial allegory, that's you. You, the shepherd boy or the Semitic boy, he got your head, the greatest giant that you got. Your head is in his hand. He decapitated you. In other words, LeBron James belonged to him. The greatest amongst you, whoever's greatest amongst you, his head belongs to the Semite. They're going to keep it that way. Jay-Z's head belonged to the Semite. Jamie Foxx's head belonged to the Semite. That's the decapitation of the Goliath. No real person in real life. See, you on the surface level, you think Goliath was real. You think somebody really had a slingshot. They reenacting these movies in Hollywood. You think it's real, but you don't see the racial allegory behind it. You have to keep the greatest among. You have to have their head. Their head and brain got to belong to you as the Semite. Man, I don't know. Maybe I'm going too deep. Maybe that's a different story for a different day. But let me say it this way. There was a devil named Patrick Mell, right? Patrick Mell. He lived from 1814 to 1888. He was the fourth president of the Southern Baptist Convention, right? All right. SBC. He's quoted by saying, from Ham were descended the nations that occupied the land of Canaan, and those that now constitute the African or Negro race. He goes on to say, their inheritance, according to prophecy, has been and will continue to be slavery. Then he finishes off the quote by saying, so long as we have the Bible, we expect to maintain it. Let's stop. Let's cook on that, beloved. Let's figure that out. What was Patrick Mell saying? It's his God-given right to have you as his slave because you're the children of Ham. And we got the Bible. Who was the we? The Semitic got it and the Europeans got it. We're going to maintain this. Now, this is the importance of you and I reading this book nonstop. Because we get to see how they think about us, but we can't get it from the surface level. If you running around, brother, thinking that snakes really was talking and all this old these folk coming back to life, you really thinking you waiting for the New Jerusalem? You know what I'm saying? Look, you waiting for the New Jerusalem, brother? You ain't waiting for the new Detroit or the new Chicago or the new Harlem. You waiting for the New Jerusalem like them. You think that some folks there was a segment of our population that thought they were gonna get caught up, but they called it the rapture. They don't talk a bunch about it no more because I don't know. They just changed their tune. When I was coming up in the 80s and 90s, man, our people used to talk about a rapture. What these Semitics say, they're gonna fly up in the sky one day, and black folks saying we're gonna get caught up with them. And this is our mind for real. Like, brother, this mentally dead on another level. You know what I'm saying? We gonna follow these folks in the sky. What do you think you gonna? Don't you know that a white man's and a Semitic's man in heaven is your hell? They don't have you. You're their slave. You're going to be a hewer of wood and a drawer of water. You're the Hamites. Didn't Patrick Mell just tell you what you are? He said, long as we got the Bible. He's talking about white folks. He said, long as we got the Bible. That Negro race, that African race, their inheritance, according to, that man said, according to prophecy, we're going to keep them in slavery. You know what a slave is? You're going to work for them forever, brother. Now, here you is. You ain't... See Reverend Pochop and Deacon Doughboy, they're not telling you this. This is your image to them, brother. This is your image. That's how come they can sign. Before there was a Nicki Minaj, there was a Jezebel. Right? Before there was a Megan Thee Stallion, there was a Jezebel. Dee1 could go clean up all the artists, the physical artists, but they in the book? They trapped into the Semitics book. This is why Clive Davis put the money behind them. Jimmy Iovine put the money. See, your people didn't do that. I have to remember and give this as a remembrance to our people, brother. Your people may love music, bro. Your forefathers did not listen to what they listen to today. Your forefathers created love music. There was a black man named Berry Gordy. He had his own record company. His name was Motown Records. He got black women out of one of the most notorious ghettos in Detroit called Brewster Projects. You know what he named the group? The Supremes. Diana Ross and the Supremes. Look at Motown and look at how Berry Gordy dressed all of his artists. Suits on, ties, nice pair of slacks on, soft shoes. Is that not right? When our people was going through the South, coming from Detroit, performing, the Stevie Wonders, the Diana Ross and Supremes, you know, the crackers in the South, they had to put Diana as a headline. They had to put colored women where you couldn't even eat at the lunch counter and all this old kind of stuff. They didn't want to be bothered with you. They had to call black women from the projects the Supremes. I know it hated their guts to do that, but this is the mind of Berry Gordy. Because this is how he sees his own people in his own mind. All right, now let's fast forward. Let's see when you get around the Hymies. Clive Davis don't do that to you, brother. Jimmy Iovine don't do that to you. Not Doug Morris. Not Bill Ackman. They're gonna... Your image to them is how they see you in their book. Because they're not going surface level. They're not going allegory. They're at the racial allegory level with the rest of the world. You got to catch up. They already caught up. You got to catch up now. You have to catch up. We caught up, brother. We got knowledge yourself. We see what's popping. You don't get it. You can go into a building every Sunday and these folks talking about David did this. You don't see that there are invaders. You can't see the children of Israel. But you know, I get it because, see, they sprinkle these invasion stories and these raider stories in these killing capture stories. They sprinkle it with thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, love thy mother and father, and your days will be long, love thy neighbor like yourself. a fool and his money should soon part. They sprinkle that in there so you can't see the invasion no more. You don't look at the minute you hear the children of Israel, the first thing should pop in your mind like, okay, these are the people that invaded the black land. That's the first thing should go in your mind. It doesn't go in your mind like that. These are God's people. These are God's people. I'm like, okay, well, what God? Since we talking about their God's people, what deity led them? Then you have to say, well, Yahweh is their God. Well, who is Yahweh? Yahweh is a military strategist, brothers and sisters. He's a genius. He's a military genius. So you're projecting on Yahweh as a black person. Oh man, this is a God of love and peace, and not the military genius. What did you read? I see our brothers do that with the Quran. Man, Allah is a God of love and forgive. Like, no, not him. Did you read? He's violent, beloved. Did you read what I'm reading? See, they're framing it for you. They're doing projections. Black people love to project what they think on a foreign deity. You can just read who Yahweh is, brother. Not the deity that killed 185,000. Not him. You talking about him? This is the God of love. I don't know about that, brother. You need to go back and read that again. He's coaching them to take the land. You know what's silly to me? I'm gonna tell you what's so silly to me when you see how everything really unfolds. It is so silly for a black man. When I hear a black man say, well, he's a prophet of God. This is a black man now. Hey, I'm a prophet of God. Like, brother, do you know what a prophet is? A prophet is somebody that's speaking the mind of God. Okay, what mind of God are you speaking? What is the name of this God that you're speaking of? Because how could a Hamite, because this is what they're going to call you. How could a Hamite speak the mind of Yahweh when Yahweh is a war god that was coaching the Semitics to take the land from the Hamites? So what place is that? How are you going to fit into that dynamic? See, when you begin to peel those layers back, it's going to look like it's a whole new onion now, because the tambourine ain't playing no more. You know, you have to be able to speak and know what you're talking about. But we know that we know you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Maybe all that is a different story for a different day. I just want to say this. How about we start reading the Doctrine of Discovery? Let's just start there. And how about we start reading the books like they are? Don't project on it. Just read it. If the deity is a military strategist, you can't make him nothing else. For years, we made him something. I made him something else. Let me personalize it. I made him something else. And I'll tell you why. I'll share this with you. I am from one of the biggest black apostolic organizations in the whole country. I used to ask the minister, what was the chosen? Because I never understood. I always ask a lot of questions. I'm like, what is this chosen people thing about? And Israel was the chosen people of God. What does that really mean? And the minister told me, he said, he was like my uncle. He says, Israel was chosen to evangelize to the world. They was chosen to evangelize and teach the world about God and this and that and the third. I'm like, okay, boom. So don't you know, beloved, for maybe like the next 20 years, that was my framing. Every time I read the book and I read about Israel and David and Saul, I felt like they was doing God's work by these wars, these battles, right? And something very interesting happened to me, and I just read it myself. One day I just reading, you know, you read story for story for story, and you're just reading through, and there was no evangelism of the world. All I could see was an invasion. And I was trying to see, I'm like, why does it? And I kept asking myself, why does it look like this to me? And something was saying, dummy, this is what it is. You're just reading it. And I'm trying to read it different. And it's just, I'm like, it just looks like they're invading. It just looks like it because that's what was happening. That's what was happening. I couldn't believe it myself. There was no evangelism to the world. It was invaders. That changed the whole frame Now I know what the old covenant, this is what the Old Testament is all about. It was about the promise given to Abram. Everything is about the promise given to Abram, who changed his name to Abraham, as we know. Isaac and Jacob, about getting the land of Canaan. But the setup is at the ark. That's it. It's not about nothing else. It's nothing. That's it. Now in that is the image of our people, and it's all negative. And there's a people that is a representation of this book, and we call those folks Semitic people. And those are the people that's running the show in America. So you have to know the Bible, especially the Old Testament. You get to see how they're relating to you. These are the folks that run the educational system, the judicial system, the banking system. You know, this is how come you can have debt for this long, and after that it'll fall off, because it's coming from their culture, their religion. You don't run the banking system, they run it. So you have to figure out how they're thinking and how they're representing you and how they are presenting you to the world. It's bigger than just Dee1 just calling out some rappers. Brother, they got you locked in the book. Until you figure out how to get out of that trick bag, brother, the rest is, come on, man, it's just child's play. And I'm going to just leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. Peace and black power to your family. Oh, man. I think we figured some things out today, right? Beloved, until next time, this is indeed Real Black Content from Podcast, man. This is your brother V. Beloved, I will get up with you guys later. Peace.
You bragging about what you done been through, partner, we survivors too. And you calling boys your brothers, which one's gonna ride for you? Ain't no G code no more, boy, the streets done lied to you. That's why I be in my bag, but I be in my Bible too. They don't like me, but they know they can't deny me. Man, I'm a real gangster, and you know right where to find me. Gangsta, do not try me. Growing and nurturing gifts, serving the Almighty. Keep up. A lot of people feel how I be feeling, but don't speak up. I be out at Harvard in my office with my feet up. God, why you so good to me? I need answers. Slaves built this school, now I own real estate on campus. Looking for a wife, I ain't trying to be your daddy, but I am gonna be the leader of this house. You gonna respect me. I just need somebody I could build with. The real gon' feel it like a slap from Will Smith. My girl don't need no rough masculine energy. Let me handle that part so you can rest in your feminine. Spirit gold is Trick Daddy's teeth, and she's sweet as cinnamon. My grandpa and my daddy raised a true southern gentleman. I need another title. I'm no longer a rapper. I'm a rhyming revolutionary, authoring chapters in this book we call life. Here to give you instructions on fighting self-destruction over beautiful production. I don't fit in, I don't drink, smoke, or pop pills. I don't even curse up in my music, but it's hot still. I'm all in the hood and I ain't even strapped. Simba, burrito, you're lying in your raps. Sometimes I be sad, I be crying in my raps. Wrote this on a plane, I be flying in my raps. My joy is my weapon, and I keep it right here on my hip for protection. Fly as a Jetson, plus I know I'm